Yes.
That goes out to the department. That's kind of like the schedule.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I threw in the departments and the dates. It's fairly similar to what we had. Does everyone have a copy of it?
Unless it's changed.
No, it changed.
It's,
Did
so.
that change?
I put
yeah.
in, I put in the departments.
Added Felton Field.
Good.
Yeah, and I added Felton Field as well. I figured since we met with them
Yep.
last year,
Yeah, they're looking for money, we need to talk.
and I don't think I missed anybody, but just double check and see if there's any. So I'm new to doing this, right? And I don't want to make sure I don't over-plan. My thought was similar to what we did last year with, was to do the bigger departments near the end. But because there was a lot of information, not really to try to clump them with too many of the other departments as well. So, like March 15th, you know, fire, ambulance, board of health, cemetery, library,
That's good.
and then I saved the school and the DPW for the last 2 weeks. Because the DPW ended up pushing anyways, and the school ended up pushing.
Okay. Good to me.
Was there any questions on the letter at all?
Let's see. I have a question. The question is, do the department heads have a layout, a rough layout of what we expect to get?
So that's on page 2
Right,
of the letter.
right.
So that's their, I mean, Dan and I had talked about this, because it seems like from my experience last year and then
Yep.
also looking at years prior, when departments were sent out this letter,
Right.
nobody really followed through.
Yeah, just,
Right, they just kind of submit the budget, right, but there's no narrative,
Right.
there's no goal.
that's what I meant about
So, yeah,
the sample.
so this year, and again, Dan and I had talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is that we'll just be more persistent, you know, and not just accept the budget. And, you know, we understand everybody is busy, but
Right.
when it comes to creating the budget is obviously a piece of policy that the town passes, so you want to have an understanding of what those numbers are
Correct.
going to support.
Correct.
So I think that this year, you know, we're going to take a different approach and just be more persistent on pushing the narrative side of the budget instead of just accepting the numbers.
The selectmen, for the people that work for the selectmen, that haven't been elected, obviously, are they on board to put a little pressure? Maybe
You,
show
the
up at their monthly meetings or something to, the selectmen, say it was the sewer board,
Right.
do the selectmen, you know, are they looking to participate, you know, in pushing this forward?
I can get.
Ask them?
Yeah, I can get the board
They're kind of busy
involved for
last year,
sure.
Brian. You might have
Well,
to-
yeah, no, last year is one
So
thing,
you-
but this year, let's get back to
Right,
it.
so you mean like have the select board, like Maureen and Greg and Dylan to get involved and be more,
If necessary.
okay,
If necessary.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, not everybody has to be pushed.
Right, right.
Well, I know,
Temper-
yeah, I know last year, you know, going through it for the first time, there were some departments that just didn't even show. And,
Right. Doesn't make sense, does it?
you know, if you're looking for money and, or we're seeing where the money is being allocated to in the departments, I know that's a question that I have for a few of the departments that we didn't get to talk to last season. And hopefully they come through this season.
Right.
I had a question on the first part.
Yep,
If the FinCom can have a copy of what the agreements on the salaries and the compensation and the
What?
work stuff.
There
Yeah,
is,
Is that here?
yeah, that's a copy right here.
Okay. I haven't seen one of those for a while, so.
and then I can send everybody, the CBAs, which are the union agreements as well. I wasn't gonna put those are
Yeah.
lengthy documents, so.
Yeah.
I'll bet.
But if, you know, if we know what they've
Right,
bargained for them.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then with this letter, are you sending them their worksheet for their,
Yes,
okay?
yes. And so I had printed out an example of one of the worksheets as well.
Okay, they're the same as before?
Yes. So that's the assessor's budget. So I'm going through, because again, last year with this being my first experience with this budget, you know, it was expected that the departments would fill out all of the information, but most of the departments did not fill out, you know, their prior year expenses and salary information. So I've gone through this year and I'm putting all of that information in for them.
So your expend column is what they actually spent.
Right, so it goes back to FY '21 because that's the most recent complete fiscal year that we have. So it compares what they were approved for in FY '21 at the annual town meeting and then what they actually expended. Obviously, the assessors, they had gone through a retirement and a new staff member, so that's why like they were the first budget on my list. So I was like, oh, this is a good budget to give to you guys for an example because they overspended on their salaries
Right.
pretty significantly. But
I mean, that's
that was
what
just-
we're looking for anyway,
yes.
so that's a good idea.
exactly.
And was there's no, should there be mention of capital in here, or is that a separate letter?
I was just thinking of that too.
Yeah. Did they, usually they have a line or something about capital.
Yes.
Maybe we could add a line about
I was
capital.
gonna say, I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how that got deleted, but there was definitely a line in there
Yeah.
about capital before.
And another thought, maybe a line to discuss any articles that are attached to the particular town department's budget.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a
Because
good thing.
like the assessors.
the assessors, DPW, water, I feel that if we go through this cycle, maybe by the time the annual town meeting comes, I would suggest anything that's over 5 years old to maybe clean that up and bring it back into the operating budget.
Yes.
Okay, you mean stuff that was, article that was not spent.
That was not spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because if it's over 5 years old,
Not gonna happen.
so we brought a lot of that up last budget season. And still, as of these budget reports, the funds are sitting out there
Yeah, nothing
Yeah.
else.
and not being used. So if they're not gonna be used, we might as well bring the money back in and use it.
I mean, theoretically, nobody can see 5 years ahead.
Yeah,
So they thought 5 years ahead they were gonna do something, they haven't done it.
yeah. Well, some of them
Time
are,
out.
I mean, we're talking 18 years old, up
Yeah.
close to 20 years
Yeah.
old on some,
Yeah.
that's just, with
Yeah.
with inflation right now, that money's not even worth nearly what it what it was when it was originally voted in. I know in the DPW from last year, I do have copies I got from the clerk of all the articles. I don't have copies of the articles, I believe there's one I saw, we can look at it when we go through the budgets. For the sewer, or the sewer or water, there was one from 2005.
I don't have them here, I got them out in the car.
Yeah.
A bunch of the stuff we went through, a lot of the old town reports,
Mhm.
so I think that information's available.
Yeah,
I
but
don't have it with
I
me.
think we just put it out there, because I know, we'll go through the budgets too, but I noticed that, was it the police car went over budget? Was it $1,500?
Yes, so the police car that went over budget because so typically what they would do is they would use the car that they are no longer using as a trade-in. But this year, they put it on municipal instead because it was a better, price. You would get more than what the trade-in was gonna offer, just because of the way that cars are going right now. But what happened is that Jean is not able, and we found that this out after the fact, is that Jean is not able to put that money directly into that account. So the budget is kind of offset in a different way. We have the money that went directly into the general fund, for the trade-in, but it wasn't able to go directly into that police car budget. So, just one of those
Yeah.
mass general law
Sounds
things
normal.
where
Yeah.
we're not allowed
Double
to.
accounting.
Yeah,
I don't fully understand why, it was that way, but according to the DOR, we can't
Mhm.
do it that way.
So this line that you want to add, what would that be,
I mean,
you think?
article expenditures, department article expenditures.
Aged or something?
Yeah, well, really, they should be able to speak to any of the articles that are in their budget.
Right.
Yeah.
When Gene sends out the budget reports every 2 weeks, it goes to every department in
Right.
town. So if they're being looked at, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that there's $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 sitting out there for many years. And like I said, we brought it to a bunch of departments' attentions last year.
Yeah.
My thought is 1 year is pretty good, like if you're gonna use that money, if it's not used by the time we get into the depths of the budget season, at annual town meeting, request to do a article cleanup for all of these.
So you would do that as a number 6 in this letter you're talking about? right?
Yeah,
Okay.
number 6, and then, or number 7, you talk about capital, right, so maybe add 2 more lines.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, I can work on the wording, unless you wanna do the wording, it doesn't matter to me.
I can work on the wording,
Okay.
send you a copy.
All right. Anybody have anything else on the letter? Questions, concerns?
Seems good to me.
I guess, like anything, I don't know how you conveyed it, we're not looking for a Russian novel, okay? Bullet points or whatever, and I don't know how you say that, but when you talk to them, say, look, we
Yeah.
don't want you to spend a lot of time writing up a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Just bullet points, anything, just answer the question.
Right.
Otherwise, they're not gonna do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pertinent information. I mean, some of the departments do a very, very good job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
And list of programs, sub-programs, that's obviously, grants. Should there be any information on revenues, or are we just focusing on expenditures?
But the, number 2 suggests that they should list, any grants that they were awarded in the prior 2 years.
Okay.
Or also any that they're anticipating putting in front.
If that's what the committee, I think I would hesitate just because a lot of departments, they apply for some really big grants that are just so unlikely that the town is gonna get, like the fire
Fire
chief
trucks, yeah.
applies for a fire truck every single year, and the maybe 2 communities in the entire state get the fire truck,
Right.
so, I can assure you that the departments are shooting for the moon, but
I mean, but the other side of that is that, you see a department that made 10 requests for, funds, and then a lot of other departments that have none. So,
right,
even if you don't get it, at least you tried.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's good to know that
If you
they're
don't, yeah, if
trying.
they tried, yeah.
That they're applying for them. You
Right.
know you're not gonna get them all the time.
Anyway, that's,
But they can try to get them.
And you also have a copy of the schedule. Do we need a vote on the letter, or are we just good to move?
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
Vote on it.
Yeah, so, get a motion to approve the letter with the amendments discussed.
so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up on the agenda The meeting schedule, I think we covered that. Review of the budget reports from Jean. Does anybody have anything in particular they want to discuss?
Afraid I laid down.
I have a couple questions, but
Okay.
I'll wait to see
Good,
if anything.
good.
I just was noticing police supplies. Is- Well, it should be what, about 35%? And it's up, he's over by 56, what he should be at this time of year.
Is the chief back, by the way? Yes.
56% on supplies, I'll have to keep an eye on that one, right?
Yeah, that's it, I just, when I go through these, I just look to see what look like they're gonna be. And I had a question on that cruiser line, the Article 13.
Yeah, I think that's the one that we just discussed,
Yeah,
right?
we were
The,
just talking about.
So that'll come out of his operating budget, the extra, the 1499, or that comes in from revenues off of municipal bid?
Well, it doesn't show that he went over budget on that. It just shows that he
He's got
went
extra.
100%.
Right.
So which, are we talking about,
Well, why is it showing negative though, negative 1499?
because it was 100% of it was spent?
Okay,
'Cause,
I'm
you know,
looking at
original
the-
budget's zero.
The original
apparently, right?
budget was 55,000 for the police cruiser.
oh, that's the one we just
Oh.
voted on, I don't think
Yeah.
that one's,
That one's not finished yet.
Okay,
It's,
that's what I was wondering.
they're waiting
what
on, like, they need to paint the car and all of
Okay.
that stuff is,
Yeah,
supply chain.
yeah,
yeah.
I just had made note of that.
Okay. Oh, but I see what you mean of the following one. Yeah, that one just went over budget because of what I discussed earlier.
Yeah, because it was 55,000 that was allocated, right? And then, so there was an extra $1,500 expense.
Actually, I think $45,000 was allocated for that cruiser.
Okay.
Because it was just the Charger, whereas the one that was from this year was a SUV, so it's more expensive.
And what's the EMS service contracts? Is that one's a little bit over, but is that because it's paid like quarterly or something?
I don't know how the chief pays out the contracts, but those are contractual
Yeah.
expenses, just like any other, contracts. So it might be billed out quarterly.
That's what I wondered if, because the percent was higher.
I got one question. I'm going over the debt, principal, and debt interest stuff. And trying to see what our new stuff is gonna look like. But, that excluded Barre Common Ban. It's a 591110 and combined capital improvement ban. That's a very mysterious thing. And I'd like to talk to somebody about where that is, okay? It was mysterious last year, okay? And I had one thing that Andrew did that's very old and outdated, so we need, I wanna take, is Gina one to talk with about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because the other thing I thought in general for this year was spend some time on the revenue stuff. That's a thing that floats in the air
I do.
for a long time.
I said it last
And
year.
My feeling is, I'd like to spend some time and get some numbers. So we put it in our sheet, the number is red. that means we don't know the real number, but it's the best number this week.
Mhm.
And then 2 weeks later, it's still red, but it might have changed, okay? Because, I mean, when you do all the expenses, you gotta know what the hell is coming in. And I didn't wanna leave that kinda to the end, all right? I think it would take some discussion, because I looked at what was in this blue book for 2021. And there was some good pages about discussion, how they said, this is what happened the last few years, but this year we're gonna assume this.
Mhm.
So my feeling would be, go back into, look 2 or 3 years back, and then get some data and say, here's what it is, what would we like it to be now? What do people think this is a reasonable number? And so that when we decide our revenues versus our expenses, how we're doing as we go along, it's the best we can do, rather than just look at expenses without any real handle on what the revenues are doing.
There must be a schedule, right, for all of the debt principles?
Yeah,
There's everything
everybody,
except for that, okay, that's, I got all of that's all known.
Okay.
That's little magic, okay? And I don't know what the words are, because I've never seen it, okay? It's different than Andrew had when I asked him for one that he had done 2 or 3 years ago. And it was the magic last year, it came out, but I figured this year, I don't wanna wait too long before we understand the magic. So that'll take care of all the debt and interest stuff known. That can go into our box, so we'll know what's going on there.
So you're looking for the revenues as well that are gonna offset the
Yeah,
expenses?
that whole business on the revenue stuff.
Well, it comes down to
The
being
tax-
posted
You know,
too.
the tax levy, cherry sheet, local receipts, additional funds, then the other financing sources is a bunch of stuff that was in this book. I wanna start listing them down, getting them on our sheet with the best number that we can come up with at this time. Just, because what I'm hoping is, every time we meet, we can kind of see how we're doing. And we gotta know all the good numbers, not just the expenses.
Mhm.
But
Gene must have revenue reports
Well,
as well,
yeah,
right?
we got tons of revenue reports, but they sort of have to say, well, come up with a number that looks good. And I think that's something, you know, we have the numbers, we can talk about what people think and say, okay, I think that's a good number, that'll go on our sheet for this week. And something happens within the next 2 weeks, somebody got smarter in 2 weeks and say, well, here's the new number because we have this thing. And that way, when we're looking at revenues and expenses, we have the best number all the time. Because everybody's looking, remember Claire, we used to look for the bottom line all the time? Heck with the rest of it, what's it look like down here, you know? And I think we,
Well, the revenues are always changing throughout the
Oh,
year,
yeah.
obviously, they're
No
gonna be
question.
changing, but, I think we've,
hey guys,
hello,
Hello.
we've,
just wanted to say hello.
we've approached this before and with Gene, and apparently there's still problems with the things being updated on schedule, on time. And
That's one of the
so
reasons.
they're gonna, that's why you call it magic, because,
Well, that's one of the
There's
reasons
a
why I
magic
wanna
area
start-
there that
start
isn't being
looking
done.
in there now. I
Right.
don't wanna wait
well,
till the spring,
Brian,
okay?
working at the other end,
yeah,
revenues are posted monthly. They
a
don't
month
come in
late,
very
yeah,
often.
right, but a month is
And yet I
good.
said, the collector showed me today, the stack she's got, she said, I don't know, we've got so many paying right now. She
I
said,
don't
we've got a
understand.
big
I don't
amount
understand what you're
coming
saying.
in.
What's the problem?
This is,
Personnel?
is in Phillipston,
Oh,
you know,
I don't really care about Phillipston.
No,
I care about
but-
Barre.
you know what I'm saying?
I
I
understand, yeah.
see, you have to see revenue in every town
Yeah.
runs the same way,
3 months or 4 months behind?
and they are behind.
Hmm.
You know, like she got, now I may not see those monies come in the book
That's
for
why-
another
that's
month
why I
yet.
wanna
right.
Start looking.
Mhm.
But she was telling me to
But-
let me know that all this money here coming to you.
Right,
Yep.
yes,
So
But I
what-
don't know how much.
yes.
But is it, the monies that are coming in, are they being posted, I guess, basically, is what I'm saying? I understand that it's flexible, they're coming in all the
Yeah.
time. But will money that has come in, has that been posted to wherever it has to be posted to show in his revenue?
Yeah,
Right.
it gets,
It does.
eventually
It
it
is?
will
Yes.
get.
Eventually.
But it has to
Right.
go through a couple of other people before it gets there. And it depends how fast or
Right.
what else is,
Right.
how
That's why I
fast
said, I
it
think
comes through.
you need to continually update to see how things are going, but my feeling would be, we have a couple of months and whatever, get what we think the whole year's gonna be, then we can watch how it's going, but at least
Yeah,
put a
compare
number in what we
the
think will be in
estimate.
Yeah, I
FY
think-
'23.
So you're looking for like a forecast of what the revenues will be?
But because just looking at the expenses, okay,
Mhm.
some guy's got a plumber near by for $50,000. Do we have the 50,000? Well, maybe we do, maybe we don't. So that's why I'm saying is, you just can't look at one half the puzzle.
Mhm.
I mean, let's face it, the budgets are a big puzzle,
Mhm.
okay?
Oh, yeah.
They're really tough, but the other stuff happens, and I think we gotta start looking at it a little more.
Do we have a revenue forecasting tool the town uses?
No.
No, I think you gotta just sit down and.
But
come
that's
up
part
with-
of what, so we've been working on getting onto one software, and that's part of these new softwares, that they incorporate those kinds of tools, so you can forecast out 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And what's the software the town's trying to get onto now?
Right now, we're working with Vadar and Springbrook, which is formerly known as SoftWrite. So those are the two major candidates that we've been working with over the past couple of months.
What are the challenges, getting all the departments on board, or?
No, I think that we've just been working, and I think both departments have been, well, all three departments, because we have the assessors that works a little bit, in the softwares, but, you know, we've spent several hours watching presentations
Okay.
and talking with these folks over the phone, through email. So
Great.
it's been a lot of like fact finding. I think everybody's doing a really thorough job at like trying to learn
Good.
as much as they
Good,
can
that's
about.
what we need.
So,
Move
but we
forward.
are probably within the next week or so gonna have some, formal proposals.
Oh, great.
And then it's our goal to have a decision made by November 15th, which
All
is
Well, that's
right.
pretty aggressive.
Well, that's progress.
the next select board
I
meeting.
love it.
And then, most likely, we would just launch the new software July 1st next year.
And what are the what are the two companies again, please?
Vadar, which is the company that the treasurer collector and the assessor is currently using.
Right.
And then Springbrook, which is formerly known as SoftWrite, which is the company that Jean uses in the accounting office.
Okay.
So this is like a program where those two systems communicate with each other type of thing?
No,
No, okay.
it's gonna be one or the other.
Oh, so
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's gonna be one or the other.
Right.
who-
Yeah, we
who
use
choose.
Vadar,
Yeah,
and I have used other software, and Vadar, their reports are not the best. In fact, I took our report into the selectmen today and said, this is the report I'm telling you, that I'm trying to get them. Talk to the guy at Vadar, and I want this report.
yeah,
Can you write it like this? Because their reports are very hard to read. They give you the ending balances at the bottom of the department, but they also give them at the top. So you don't know where to look. I keep looking at the top balance, thinking it's the first entry. And they're crazy.
Well, any software, you have to get used to it. You work with it for 6 months, and then you figure out what it is and where you have to look. Because and I'm sure that's part of the problem of getting one software, because
yeah.
it's a learning curve. you know?
Yeah, and I think even like, so the Springbrook, not to go off on too much of a
Yeah.
tangent, but I think
Right.
Springbrook software is even different than like what Jean's used to working with, because Springbrook bought out SoftWrite, And now they are transitioning basically all SoftWrite customers into this like cloud software.
Yeah,
Um,
some data is like that.
So even what Gene is used to, like even if we stay with Springbrook, like
Gonna
it's
change.
gonna change for everybody.
Yeah.
Do you know how long, so if this did go launch on the first with the new fiscal, would forecasting revenues be immediately available, or is that something that's gonna have to get built in?
That would be something that would have to be built in, but it shouldn't be too hard, like, once we have the actual software, it should be mostly just plugging numbers in and then going from there.
So what can we do for this season, you think, to have like an
I don't
interim?
know if everybody has this book.
Yeah, I have it at home, I don't have it with me.
When you look in the first few pages, and they go over all the revenue stuff, okay? First, I don't know, 6, 8, 7 pages, but all different stuff. So my feeling is, now that we have some kind of form of what to ask,
Mhm.
how are we doing? What does the account show here? Try to put together some piece that we can use, that we would like to use.
Mhm.
And then, when you go through some numbers, you're gonna be able to fill in right away, say, you'd be happy, the other stuff is gonna be, needs some work. But the thing is, you'll eventually be able to get a better picture on your revenue side,
Mhm.
okay? And, I just feel that after last year, I mean, we did a lot of expense stuff last year. At the end of the year, I was kinda nervous, and so I don't wanna let that go this year. I mean, just keep at it and see where we're at, but this, to me, is a good guideline to start with, and we can just deal with what we have. There's a lot of this numbers, somebody's got here somewhere in the thing, just plug it in and see what happens.
That's information we could get from like the collector and Gene?
Yeah.
And kind of, even if we just build our own interim forecast?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that's what
thinking.
I
I mean,
was
it
thinking,
doesn't have to be
spreadsheet
rocket
with it
science,
on
just that we're comfortable with, when we go over these items, say, here's all we know, what do you think for this year, put it in,
Mhm.
and see how close we look, that's all.
Okay. Do you have any clue of projections on revenues at all, right now, or no?
Right now, I do,
Too early, yeah.
yeah, November 1st is right upon us.
Yes, exactly. In terms of the budget worksheets, was there any other questions that anyone had? I have a question if no one does.
Oh, which one?
It's,
From Gene, you mean?
yes,
Yeah.
mine's on the, where did it go? Is it, not the insurance, but the general insurance? We didn't end up budgeting last year for the RMV non-renewal, air pollution, and regional transit. And I believe that was a question that came up at the public hearing.
I think that came up before the public hearing, because I remember Jean talked about it, and she said we don't need to budget it.
It was in the, what, wasn't an article, but it was somewhere in there. But now, I mean, but
No,
now,
because it comes off of the cherry sheet.
but now it shows like we're fully negative by 4,000, by the full amount, because there was no budget put in.
Right, and it's because we get basically like reimbursed for those expenses.
Okay,
So it's kind of, they like negate each other.
so we're not seeing the revenue on the budget, on the expenditure report.
Correct.
So that's something.
And I can have Jean, follow up with you guys on that if
Okay.
you'd like.
And we talked about the overage on the cruiser. Is that the final figure for the new ambulance? Is there gonna be an overage there, do you know?
The ambulance actually,
Because it came in under budget, it looks like, unless there's
Yes.
more that needs to go out.
yep, no, that's exactly, what, we don't owe anything else on the ambulance.
Okay.
And did we get it? Did I see it when I drove by there?
No, it's a nice,
Finally.
yeah, it's a nice piece of
Finally.
equipment.
It came almost a month ago.
Yeah, okay, I saw something really nice, shiny thing.
But-
ready for that kind of money, huh?
Unless, I was just told today that it's a 22-month waiting period for a new ambulance if we ordered it today, so, that shiny new ambulance is gonna be pretty dull
Yeah.
very soon, because the other ambulance is not in great shape.
Yeah. Did the town ever, I know there was talk before of, the chief brought it up, combining services with Hardwick. Is that a go or?
So Barre provides service to about half of Hardwick now.
Okay,
That's a $25,000 contract.
okay. And that'll be in the revenues.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we get 15,000 from New Braintree. But I think, the volume of calls that the ambulance has serviced has gone up dramatically, so, and that's not including Hardwick or New Braintree, that's just within Barre, is that our call volume is very high. So it puts a lot of stress on our ambulances, for sure. And
Yeah.
we went a couple of weeks where we had to borrow one of Rutland's ambulances because, the ambulance that we were getting rid of just like died. Beyond repair, could not fix it. So we had to borrow Rutland's ambulance until the new ambulance came.
But we have two that go now, right?
We have one.
And a
Only one
half.
that-
Yeah, one and a
We had two
half.
that went
The other one
before,
is
one
in and
died.
out of service.
This one is one,
We,
this
the
one.
other, that older ambulance is in and out of service
All the time.
every 10 days, give or take.
Yeah. Like right now, it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
What kind of issues, you know?
everything.
Engine, brakes?
Basically,
what?
it's all mechanical.
Those are hard miles on an
Oh,
ambulance.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They never stop either.
They don't.
We gotta look for a used one, I guess. It takes 22 months to get a new one.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's the same
The
thing
same
as
with
the
cars, yeah.
car market right
Yeah,
now, is
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't find a used ambulance either.
Build our own.
And that-
Yeah,
Well, that'll probably be an issue, because they're still looking to close the hospital over in Ware, right?
it is closed.
So we're mostly transporting out to what, Leominster and
Palmer and Worcester.
Palmer, yeah, so that's putting more wear and tear on the equipment, and that's adding miles.
But I think, and this can segue into the next conversation about ARPA funds, one of the opportunities, so we can't use ARPA directly to fund like an ambulance or a fire truck, but we can use it to replace revenue. And on the surface, it doesn't really look like we've lost any revenue, but the way that the federal government requires us to calculate revenue loss, would actually work in our benefit and can provide us, a significant amount of money that we could use towards anything. So potentially, we may wanna look into, using that money towards like an ambulance or a fire truck. Because the fire truck is the other thing that the fire department sorely needs. I know that the chief will let you guys know.
I'm sure he will. Now, with the ARPA funds, are there anything else that the town's looking at right now? I know it's been talk about the broadband. Now, with the broadband, is that just getting the residents that do not have access up online, or is it looking to do something that Peter Sam has done?
The whole
So-
town,
So we agreed with, the company that worked in Peter Sam, DG Matrix, to build out Spring Hill Road, where Ted lives. And so that agreement is in effect, and they're building out that road. We do have we don't have an agreement, but we have a proposal from Charter to build out the rest of the town that's not currently connected, to internet, not cable, but internet. And so that's probably the most significant movement that we've had on that issue. The select board, they haven't made a decision on it, they're still, considering it, still looking at it. But I don't think that we will find a better price for that kind of work, just because Charter already has,
Yeah.
you know, like the right of way on the poles, and they already have all of those kind of agreements in place that for a company like DG Matrix, it would be very expensive for them to like get all the permitting and the permission to use the space on the poles. So that proposal came in at about $320,000, which is far less than what they proposed to the town a number of years ago.
What kind of
For-
speed? For 320, that's 320, you know?
There's a requirement through ARPA that it has to be, I think, like 50
Yeah.
50 megabits per second or
That's
100 megabits per second.
100
So it has to be like, it has to be a good speed, you know? You have to be able to like work from home on this internet.
Is it upgradable, or like easily upgradable if need be down the road?
Yes, that's my understanding. That's my understanding of it.
Matrix guy says that we'll get 100 up and 100 down.
Whoa.
And
That's
I
good.
talked with a fellow from,
That's a-
Petersham, a plumber friend of mine.
Mm.
He says, 100 up and down,
No kidding.
super, no problems at all.
And it depends also
But
what
you can
you're,
also buy two,
what
they'll
you're
give you
buying for-
200 for
yeah.
another $35 a month.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
is, if you need it,
yeah,
it's cheap.
yeah.
Yeah,
I run my whole house on 100, so it's.
yeah.
Mm.
I don't think,
We-
most households don't need more than like 100,
No,
unless you're doing
no,
some
yeah.
crazy
If
like.
you're mining Bitcoin or something.
Yeah, right. So that's one of the proposals that we have on the table. And the other thing that the town has agreed to use ARPA money for, is to build out the fiber network in our municipal buildings, which is also part of building up a firewall for the municipal buildings as well, because that technology that we currently have goes end of life December 31st.
Yeah.
So we really couldn't wait any longer. And that proposal was about $148,000 for all of our municipal buildings.
So that's gonna put all the fiber and firewall needed for all of the buildings.
Yep, and it was covered through ARPA, so we're not gonna have an internet bill for 3 years, essentially.
years. Now, has the town, has there been an engagement level for the residents to discuss ARPA funding?
Not yet. So Dr. Marshall and I, on Monday, we met with a consulting company where they will manage the grant for us, but they'll also help us with like public engagement and working on getting the ideas of like what we could do with the money. So I'm trying to invite them to Monday's meeting, and of course, like all of you are invited to that meeting as well.
Was that the select board meeting?
Select board meeting on Monday night. I haven't heard back from her yet, but I'm trying to get her to come and make a formal presentation to the board, just so they can understand like the value. And I think it's very, very important that we use some of the ARPA money. And of course, there's a cap on how much you can use this money for administrative costs, but just the complexity of this reporting and the importance of making sure that we're spending the money on the right things. We wanted to make sure that we had somebody, like a safeguard, to help us out with that.
You work on a percentage or what? You know,
You're
not sure yet?
Nah, we asked them how their contracts go. Usually a lot of companies like this work by hour, an hourly rate.
Okay.
I think that would be the most common.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for that kind of service, we would probably be looking at like $125, $150 an hour.
Yeah.
But or they also work like, for $10,000, we'll give you
Yeah.
X amount of services. So it kind of just depends on how we want to
What we
approach
ask.
that contract, but probably doing it hourly would be the best.
Yeah. Good.
And if the town's looking to use ARPA for the broadband, is there intentions on the money that's in the cable funds now?
So the cable fund money is gonna be used for the Spring Hill Road.
Okay, that 100,000 from the town meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And that covers Spring Hill, so in addition to that, there's 320 to get everybody else onto broadband,
Yes,
and then 148 for municipal.
right. And that 320 would also cover Spring Hill, so the residents on Spring Hill would have options.
And the other,
So is it 100, the 100 plus the 320? So 420 altogether?
Well, no, so it's 320 altogether for charter, but then it's the 100 is just for Spring Hill.
For our costs.
Yeah,
So the
for the
town's gonna
town.
own the wire on Spring Hill.
No, it's gonna be owned by DG Matrix, which is the company
Okay.
that built out Peter Sam.
Okay,
Charter is gonna build out the areas that, around town that don't have
Right.
it.
Yes, correct.
All right.
And then, so like, you know, if Ted decides to go with DG Matrix, like his bill will come from DG Matrix. Like, if there's an outage, he will call DG Matrix, like they will manage all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Kind of like Charter or Comcast manages it for the rest of us.
but if you chose, you could go a
to
charter
charter.
as well.
Yeah, so the Charter's proposal includes that road too.
Interesting.
What's Charter gonna do if the other guys are there? Run another glass line up there?
Yep.
Something
Yeah.
isn't right. That's not right.
You have options.
Oh, hell, I
Yeah.
mean, there's some funny stuff going on if they do that, seriously. That makes no sense whatsoever.
We'll see.
Between one or the other, that's crazy.
Yeah. My
Yep.
personal opinion on wire, think about how many houses have telephone lines sitting in the walls, coax sitting
Yeah.
in the walls. Where technology is advancing so quickly that 10 years from now, I don't really see internet going through a line.
Yeah, I
think-
agree.
I think it's gonna be, I mean, I wouldn't wanna see the town invest too much money that, you know, millions of dollars, like to do what Peter Sam did, because I think it's just gonna go to the wayside.
Peter Sam guy told me, they come in with fiber in your house, to a little magic box, then it's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yep,
There's no wires in your house.
Mm-hmm,
Okay, now, where they come in, if you've got a house down there, they'll sell you another little box that'll make the other end of the house work. okay?
yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't believe there's any wires in the house, just gotta get it in.
Mhm.
yeah,
But I've been having trouble getting an answer on how big a conduit do they want. And I texted our buddy, and I called him, I spoke with him. Is there a local matrix guy we can talk to?
the only contact I have is Chris. Is that
Well,
who you've been
that's
talking
the
to?
problem. I texted him, got no answer. And the problem is, you don't get a conduit in now, guess what? You don't get a conduit in till the slop goes away in the spring,
Mhm.
all right? No matter when they get to your house.
Mm.
So it would seem to me that anybody in Peterson has a problem, they call Freddie. I wanna know where Freddie is, not Chris, Freddie. Because Freddie's the guy gonna come out to my house, he's the guy that's gonna come tell me the conduit up. So I'm gonna have to go that route and find out what the hell is going on. But anybody that's gonna have to dig, they gotta start digging within the next month and a half, or they're gonna have a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have a timeline on when they're gonna finish that project. So
Well,
I
the thing
can
is, they
reach
gotta
out to
build a
him.
two-section pole line between me and the Barre line, so he said he's
Yeah.
gonna do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's gonna be fun.
I was kind of under the impression that it wasn't gonna get done before the winter, just because they have to like go through a lot of permitting process.
No, I know, but the thing is this, let's say January 1st, they say, hey, we're gonna bring it into your house. Guess what? No good, can't dig.
Right,
So I figured, now that I know the contract is done, they're gonna get there. And I need a pipe in there somewhere, so that's,
yeah.
but, who knows?
Put a 4-inch in, that'll be
Oh, I heard 2-inch, 4-inch, are you kidding?
fun. Well, I'm just saying.
2 inch is $26 for 10 foot. Anyway,
that's pretty good. Does anybody have anything else? Anything we should schedule for our next meeting? You guys know better than me of, do we go right into budget season for next year, or should we meet again? I know Jessica's you're gonna be out for a bit, right?
Correct. November to December. Yep. It's gonna be 6 hours away, 6-hour time difference away,
No,
so.
we're not scheduled now till when, January, is that right?
13.
Correct. But did you want to meet to go over, get some revenue pieces together? And try to,
Yeah, well, I'm gonna start seeing what I can find out, getting a list of stuff to look for, to ask. And, I don't know how long that's gonna take, so I hate to say we can do it in 2 weeks, I don't know whether I
I
can or
think 2
not.
weeks is rather aggressive,
But,
but
at least get a list of stuff.
What did we do last year?
So last year, we met, I wanna say late November. And, or mid to late November, the budget message went out on December 8th, so we are ahead of schedule.
Yeah. yeah.
And then did not meet again until like mid-January, after the budgets
Yeah.
came in,
Yeah.
like all the proposals came in.
Because there really isn't
Right.
anything until then.
No, I mean, to me, just start looking around for what we need to
Yeah.
do, make a list of
Yeah.
stuff, but
But
think
there
just
isn't
wait,
anything
see
really
what's
for
there.
a meeting to do.
do you
Yeah,
want
we
to,
were late last year.
But do you wanna just schedule something, you can always cancel it later, like do the second week, the second Tuesday in December, you know?
Jessica will
And
be
maybe get an
gone,
update
right?
from
Yeah.
Jane and an
We can
update
meet.
from.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
here. I don't have to be here.
And we could either do the second week of December, or, you know, the very beginning of January, after the new year, the 4th of January,
Yeah.
that Tuesday, and collaborate on, you know, expectations, and that will give us another month. So if we absolutely needed to, there would still be time to meet again before we start meeting with the departments. I don't think we will, but
I think January
you
beginning,
say
beginning of
the
January.
11th?
the 4th?
You say 11th of January, 4th?
The 4th of January?
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
weeks before the 13th.
Are we moving to Thursdays then? 'Cause the
Tuesday.
13th and the 20th would be Thursdays.
Oh, did we-
Or-
Did we put the wrong?
Well, the 13th and the 20th, I just put as due dates for the departments, because that's the end of
Am I,
our
oh, I'm
work
sorry,
week.
I'm on the wrong month. Am I on the wrong month?
No.
No, I have January 4th. It's a
Okay.
Tuesday.
4th
I
is,
just, I'm a little, because we haven't decided our holiday schedule yet, because the holidays fall on a
right.
Saturday, and then I'm not sure if they're gonna have us have a Monday holiday for New Year's, because if we
yeah.
do, then that means the Board of Selectmen will be meeting on the 4th.
Okay, you want, yeah, no, we talked about that. Why don't we do the 11th? That way,
Okay.
it's the opposite of the select board.
okay, that'd be a good time to see what everybody thought about.
Yeah, and give us some time to work on the revenue piece and see where everything else is at, I guess. Anybody have anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Okey-doke. Great.
Well,
Good job.